Hello everybody and welcome to another video, and I'm very excited for today because it is time for the new track by November's Doom. Now this track was released about 4 days ago now. Initially when they released it, the actual video was mixed wrong. It had come out in mono, so they took it down and had to re-upload it. But regardless of that fact, it's the new track by November's Doom. Now I've mentioned before, when I've looked at November's Doom, it's a band that I really, really love. You know, I've been following them for years. I own all of their albums. And, you know, they're just a great band. You know, I've mentioned before, Doom is generally my favourite genre of metal. And, you know, November's Doom have got their new album, Major Arcana, coming out, I want to say September 19th, I think. I'll double check and I'll make sure I highlight it somewhere on the screen. But anyway, so they've got the new album Major Arcana coming out a couple of weeks ago, maybe about a few weeks ago. I checked out the first track, Major Arcana, off the album. It was an absolutely astounding piece of music, very, very heartfelt, and had a very deep message within it, you know, talking about it's the pondering of mortality, you know, the sort of existential dread, as it were, you know, of what's going to happen after I die. How will I be remembered, and how will I be remembered? You know, it was that sort of thing. So, you know, it was a very deep, emotional piece of music, and the actual performance of the piece of music was so impactful, so powerful and emotional. It was beautiful. It was a great piece of music. Now, like I said, they released this new track, Mercy, on the 31st of July. Like I said, initially there was some problems with the video, so they had to re-upload it. And of course I had to do the Patreon requests for the beginning of the month, because, you know, one of the deals there is if you suggest a track through Patreon, you get moved straight to the front of the list in order of who suggested them. So, you know, that's why we're doing this one a little bit late. But either way, I'm very excited for it because, you know, November's Doom are a brilliant band. So anyway, I'm just waffling and talking absolute bollocks. So I've got lyrics here. It is a lyric video. I've got the lyrics here, so we'll jump into this video and see what we've got. But before we do that, if you could take a moment to like and subscribe if you haven't already, it would really mean the world to me. You know, I've been doing this for close to 7 years at this point, and not even 3% of people watching my videos are actually subscribed, which is a little bit disheartening, because, you know, I like to think I do something a little bit different than most other reactors. You know, they'll look at a video, go, yeah, I liked it, or no, I didn't like it very much, and that's normally about all you get. You know, I like to talk about the songs. I like to explore the lyrics, talk about the themes, the stories, and the morals within a piece of music. So, you know, something a little bit different, so something I thought might be a bit more interesting than just looking at a song and going, yeah, it is okay. You know, so if you could like and subscribe, you know, it would really, really help me out. It doesn't cost you anything. It takes a fraction of a second, but it does make the biggest difference to me and the channel. But anyway, with that being said, let's jump into this track and see what we've got. So, this is Mercy by November's Doom. Let's have a look.
The cruelty of time, crumbling stone, destroying minds. Every chill in the air turns dreams to whispers and hope to lies. The time is now. I leave with nothing but my fear. I need you. inspire something beautiful. Handfuls of sand to declare, can't cross the river Styx without eyes. The time is now. I leave with nothing but my fear. Don't let me go. I need you to stay. I don't want to be alone. Please hold me until I'm gone. Mercy. Not for me. I want that for you, my love. I'm so sorry.
God damn. That is a powerful and beautiful piece of music. I mean, within the first, as soon as the first chorus came around, my eyes had started filling up, because there's just something about the delivery of a very specific line that really hits me right in the heart. But that is an astounding and absolutely gorgeous piece of music. You know, there's no real harsh vocals in it at all. I mean, just before it goes into the chorus, you know, you can hear a sort of subtle in the background. You know, you can hear that as it sort of builds up into the, you know, because the actual music of the chorus gets quite heavy, but the vocal performance stays the same. So, you know, there's that sort of build-up, and it sort of embodies sort of what the song is about, because it's, again, this is another sort of contemplation of mortality and the sort of the dread of what is to come, you know, because obviously we all know that eventually our time is going to come and we are going to shuffle off of this mortal coil. And this is like the impending dread of knowing that that's going to happen, and, you know, the fear that goes with it. And just the wording of it is... It's amazing. I mean, it opens with the cruelty of time, crumbling stone, destroying minds. Every chill in the air turns dreams to whispers and hope to lies. So, cruelty of time, you know, time moves ever forwards, and, you know, we are all subject to entropy and decay. You know, we're all, it doesn't matter what you do, how hard you try, you cannot escape the passage of time. You know, you are going to get older, and eventually you're going to get to the point where you cease to function, basically. You know, crumbling stone, destroying minds. So, you know, over time, you know, like I said, entropy and decay, you know, eventually minds fail, you know, you become more frail, and, you know, what might have been once a sort of big, strong, stoic person will eventually start to wither. Every chill in the air turns dreams to whispers. So, as well, the chill could be likened to like the chill of death, possibly, or again, could be likened to the passage of time. You know, turns dreams to whispers. So, aspirations you had from the future become less prominent. You know, what you had hoped for the future, as time goes by, they slowly sort of fade away, you know, because it might be something that you'll never accomplish in this lifetime. Hopes to lies, you know, your hopes for the future, you know, you might have some aspiration to do something next week, and as the passage of time goes further and further and further, you know, the chances of that happening do become less and less. I mean, there's no saying that you can't possibly do it, you know, there's a possibility you might, but you never know what tomorrow might bring, you know. I said this in the previous track, Major Arcana, you know, tomorrow is never promised, so don't leave for tomorrow what can be done today, because, you know, there's no guarantee of what might happen, you know. I hope everybody lives a long, happy and healthy life, but you never know what's going to happen. You could suddenly be struck down with something, you know, even the smallest thing. You know, my ex-wife's cousin, her mother, when she was only in her late 30s, she just suddenly dropped dead. You know, she had something called sudden death syndrome. And, you know, she was in her late 30s, possibly early 40s, and one day she just dropped dead. You know, she seemed perfectly fine and perfectly healthy to all intents and purposes, but then the next day she was gone. You know, or, you know, you might, God forbid, you know, contract some fatal illness. You might contract some withering illness. You know, you might get something like cancer or something like that. I really hope you don't, but, you know, these things are possible, and, you know, they can take you at any time. So, you know, dreams to whispers, hopes to lies. It's like everything you hoped and aspired for, everything you wanted to happen in the future, suddenly becomes sort of impossible or ephemeral. You know, they're just sort of fleeting things that you might not be able to accomplish anymore, because your time, unfortunately, is up. The time is now. I leave with nothing but my fear. So the time is now, you know, my time has come, and I leave with nothing. And this is one of those frequently said things. It doesn't matter how rich you are, doesn't matter who you are. We all leave the same way. You know, you can amass all the wealth you want. You can't take it with you. At the end of the day, we all go the same way. And you take nothing with you but your emotions and feelings, and depending on what you believe, they carry on into the afterlife or they cease upon the final. So he says, I leave with nothing but my fear. So there's that fear of the impending end, so he's got nothing to take with him except the fear of the unknown that is consuming him, sort of like, I know it's happening, I know it's coming, and I am terrified. And really, you don't want that to be your last feeling. You don't want to be scared. You'd hope to pass like calm and comfortable and at peace. You don't want the whole terrified, the idea of passing terrifies you, but you don't really want that to be the last thing that you feel before you go. And then it came into the chorus, and this chorus just absolutely crushed me. It says, don't let me go, I need you to stay. I don't want to be alone, please hold me till I'm gone. And I'm even having trouble reading that because it's just so powerful. It's like, please don't let me go, please stay with me and hold me, I need you to stay. So I need you to stay, I need you to be here, I need you to hold me. I don't want to be alone. I don't The thing is, this is one of my biggest fears I'm talking about here. I don't want to be alone. I don't want to be all by myself when I pass, and that's something that absolutely terrifies me. I don't want to die alone, because, like I said it before, I live in a village in the back end of nowhere. I have no friends within like 30, 40 miles, and I look after my disabled mother, and unfortunately, as is most likely, she's going to go before I do, so I'm going to be all by myself. And it scares the shit out of me that, one day, the eventual Reaper is going to come for me and no one's going to know. And the way he delivers that line, I don't want to be alone, my God, that broke my heart. So much emotion, it was so powerful. And then there's that line, please hold me until I'm gone. I want you to stay, I need you to hold me, I need you to feel your calming presence, because I don't want to feel that fear. Like I said before, you don't want fear to be the final thing you feel before you die. And he's like, please hold me, I need you here by my side, I need you to hold me and comfort me and make me feel calm and loved in the moments before I go. So he's like, please just hold me until the inevitable happens, because I need it. Wow. Oh, this song's hitting me hard. Anyway. The banishing of old inspires something beautiful. Handfuls of sand to declare. Can't cross the river Styx without eyes. Now that line confuses me, but the banishing of old inspires something beautiful. Now, I'm taking this to mean like there's that old idea of when someone dies, a new life comes into being. So it's like when something old disappears, the banishing of old, when that disappears, it inspires something beautiful. So out of every tragedy there comes some miracle, as it were. One person dies, another is born. So it inspires, the passing of old inspires something beautiful. So out of every tragedy there becomes something beautiful. Handfuls of sand to declare. Again, that could possibly be talking about, you can't take it with you. You have nothing. You can't take anything with you into the afterlife. That's it. Can't cross the river Styx without eyes. Now, that one I'm not so sure about. I'm not entirely sure what that one means. Because I'm sure plenty of blind people have managed to cross the river Styx. Maybe it's the idea of you can't find your way into the afterlife. You know, you need a guide, essentially. That might be what that's saying. Then it goes, the time is now, I leave with nothing but my fear. Don't let me go, I need you to stay. I don't want to be alone, please hold me till I'm gone. Then it goes, mercy, not for me. I want that for you, my love, I'm so sorry. So, it's like, I want, what's that? I want mercy for you. I want you to have peace. I don't want you to carry this burden with you, you know. I don't want someone to take mercy on me because, you know, that's inconsequential. I want mercy for you. You know, I don't want to be a burden on you. I don't want you to suffer. You know, it says, I'm so sorry. So, is that like, I'm sorry I'm making you feel this profound sadness at my passing? Because, you know, I'm kind of being selfish here, you know, saying I need you to be there to hold me, to comfort me. And it's like, seeing me in this state is going to have a profound effect on you. It's going to make you profoundly sad. You know, it's going to make your heart break. And I'm so sorry that I'm doing that to you. You know, I want mercy for you. I don't want you to feel this immense sadness that you're feeling right now. And I'm so sorry that I'm inflicting that on you. But in this moment, you know, I'm terrified. And I need that comfort. I need the comfort that you can provide me. So while I don't want you to be sad and suffer, you know, I want to save you from that suffering of seeing the person you love pass away. And I'm sorry that you're having to see that. I don't want you to feel that. And then it goes back into that chorus, don't let me go, I need you to stay. I don't want to be alone, please hold me until I'm gone. So, you know, it is an astonishingly beautiful piece of music. Such a powerful, powerful performance. I mean, the vocal performance, I've said this before, and I will say it again. Writing an emotional piece of music is all very well, but if you don't back it up with the performance, it means nothing. You know, I've covered pieces of music which have had beautiful, powerful, emotional lyrics, but the delivery and the performance has been so flat and monotone that it's lost all of its emotional weight. It has absolutely no feeling to it whatsoever. Excuse me, you know, so the performance itself makes the difference, you know. It packs that emotional punch. And, you know, even if you didn't speak English, even if you couldn't understand a word being said, with this piece of music, you can feel the raw emotion within it. You can feel the anguish, you can feel the fear. And this is what I was talking about before, you know, just before the chorus, there was that sort of rising growl sort of thing. And that's almost like his anger and frustration. And, you know, that sort of building fear of the impending end, you know, because there is a certain part of you that will be annoyed. You know, it's like, what cruel fate is this? Why should I have to leave now? You know, I'm in a good place. I have a good life. I have a good wife, for example, you know, and now it's all being taken away from me. There is going to be that degree of anger. It's like the 7 stages of the 7 stages of something. I can't remember what it is. You know, there's like the anger, there's the denial, you know, and eventually there's the acceptance. I can't think of what the bloody thing is. It's the 7... Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. You know, so anger is in there, you know, that sort of frustration of there's nothing I can do to prevent this from happening. You know, and... You know, I want to stay. I want to continue living this life. So, you know, that could be what that rising growl is, you know, that frustration and, you know, the sort of manifestation of the fear that he's feeling that, you know, everything is going to go away. So, you know, an absolutely beautiful performance. You know, Paul absolutely delivers on his vocal performance here. There is so much raw emotion within it. And I even said this when I looked at a Major Arcana, you know, there was a certain yell within that track. You know, there was one line and it was performed in such a specific way, you could feel the anguish. And that is very important in these performances. And it is just beautiful. It is absolutely amazing. I cannot wait till this album comes out. Like I said, I think it's September 19th. I will put on screen around here somewhere, you know, when it's coming out. You know, you can pre-order it now. There is a special edition which comes with a deck of tarot cards. I'd really love to get my hands on that. It's a beautiful looking album, you know, and you know, we've heard 2 tracks off it already, and it is going to be an absolutely amazing album. Well, I mean, Nephilim Grove was a great album, you know, and this one's some 5 or so years later, and you know, I'm very much looking forward to hearing the whole album. Very, very excited for it, and yeah, absolutely brilliant. And you know, the video itself as well for this track, adding a bit of extra oomph to it, because it featuring Paul, and I believe that was his lovely wife as well within the video, and their dog. You know, so there was a lot of, you know, raw emotion in the video as well. You know, you could see them like hugging, you could see them laughing, you know, and playing her out a bit, and then there was like Paul sitting there on the rocks, you know, with his head in his hands going, you know, this is great, but I know it's not going to last forever. You know, there's that sense of the impending doom. So, you know, the video really adds weight to the performance of the song as well. So, yeah, absolutely outstanding. I really am excited for when this album comes out. But I don't know what else I can say on that, so I will leave that as it is. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like or a subscribe if you haven't already. It would really, really mean the world to me. You know, I've been doing this for close to 7 years at this point, and not even 3% of people watching my videos are actually subscribed, which is, you know, a little bit disheartening, because, you know, I put a lot of time and effort into what I'm doing, but I also like to think I do something quite different than most other reactors. You know, they'll look at a piece of music and go, yes, I liked it. No, I didn't. And that's normally about all you get. You know, I like to react to the actual song, you know, talk about the themes, the morals, the stories within the piece of music. You know, what is the message that the song is trying to portray? You know, like with this one, you know, the contemplation of mortality, you know, the fear of the impending end. You know, all too often heavy metal is sort of made out to be only about evil, murder, sacrifice and stuff like that, but that's just not the case. You know, I've looked at close to 900 songs on this channel, and a majority of them have been about real world problems like mental health or domestic violence, or, you know, homeless veterans, you know, depression, anxiety, these sorts of things. You know, these are subjects that need to be spoken about, and a vast majority of the songs I've looked at have spoken about things like that. You know, and I want to dispel this misconception that heavy metal is all about anger and murder and sacrifice and evil, and it's really just not that. You know, it's really not that, and that's why I do what I do, why I talk about what's in the songs. I want to have a conversation about what the music means to you. You know, the way I've interpreted a song might be completely different to the way that you have. You know, and I want to have that conversation. You know, what does it mean to you? How have you seen it? You know, because there have been a number of times I've looked at a piece of music and gone, this is what I think it's about, and someone else has turned around and said, oh, this is what I think, and I've been like, oh, you make a fair point. There have been times I've been completely wrong, and people have corrected me, and I'm all too happy and all too ready to be corrected. You know, so that's why I do what I do. I want to understand the music. I want to have a discussion about what the music means to you. So, you know, that's why I do what I do. So, you know, if you could like and subscribe, you know, it'd really mean the world to me. It doesn't cost you anything. It takes a fraction of a second, but it does make the biggest difference to me and to the channel. But anyway, that's about all I've got for you for this video. Thank you all very, very much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye-bye.